town you never heard of. Hey everybody, welcome to the Common Folk Podcast with Ben, Morgan, and Andy.
Welcome back to Common Folk. What's so funny?
I was just thinking something in my own head. You know the movie, where they're I can't even think of it now, where they're about ready to go on air with
Not sure.
And they're like back and forth.
Anchorman?
Yes, there you go. And they're just saying all this stuff, and they look like they're being really cute to each other, but they're like, fuck you, like, like.
Oh, yeah. Ron Burgundy.
Burgundy and,
You're a
Applegate.
filthy, filthy whore.
Yes.
Yeah, you're a pirate. You're a dirty pirate hooker.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they're just laughing, and they're like,
Right.
Yeah, all
and then
that.
it goes live, and then they put on
exactly.
the face. Yeah,
That's what I was thinking of. I've never thought about that before. But
You got to lock it up. Lock it up.
Try it sometime.
we just did.
No, I mean, do it like before.
Oh, okay.
The little back and forth and button it up. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So, what's up, Andy? What do you got going on?
Well, I wanted to get Jeff back in to the fold. You guys just had the one box out there in Broken Bow not too long ago. And for people that don't know, Jeff Mullinix plays a big role in the one box. It raised a lot of money out there, pheasant hunt. And we've had you on before, so I want to get you back on because when we left it off, you had a lot of irons in the fire. You still do.
Still do.
And kind of selfishly, I wanted to know where he was at with some of this stuff. And some of our listeners that I talked to are like, so where is it with that? What's going on there?
People love follow-ups.
What would you recap from
when we chatted before? We did a couple episodes with Jeff before, didn't we?
Well, we talked about pop-up and where that's going.
Yeah.
So, Jeff, where is pop-up? It's the holidays. Is this a big influx for something like that, or do people already have their blinds purchased?
Generally not. It's that time of year when duck season is in full swing.
Mm-hmm.
It does somewhat progress from Canada down south, of course. They start thinking about duck season in July, August in Canada, and then as the weather cools off down south. So we kind of follow that migration, if you will. But most people are not buying duck blinds for Christmas gifts. No.
Most people aren't that cool.
Yeah.
Well, most people probably don't want to throw out. I'm not that they're expensive, but they're
of course.
That's a lot.
And who's going to buy a gift for their loved one or their friend that it's a custom boat blind? It's not like it's going to be a surprise. Yeah, they got to be involved in the process, and the last thing you want to do is get somebody a blind that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you imagine you come home and 4 out of 5 days, Morgan's with the tape measure measuring your boat? You'd be onto her, I think.
Yeah, calling some weird number on a guy she met online.
Yeah, exactly. Just a little bit weird.
Yeah, no doubt.
I've never been waterfowl hunting. So what is the season? When's the time of year?
It starts in Canada around the 1st of September. And
Okay.
in Nebraska, we're kind of unique. We have different zones, and so you could virtually hunt waterfowl in Nebraska early to mid-October all the way through almost the end of January.
Oh, wow.
In different areas. Mm-hmm. So you'd have to travel, of course. So out in the western part of the state, it's what's known as a waterfowl production area, so they get an extra 2 or 3 weeks of waterfowl hunting after ours ends in the beginning week of January.
Do you ever even have time to do that yourself?
I wish I did.
That's normally what happens, right?
Yeah, it's odd for us. So for most companies in the outdoor industry, they're buying products overseas, having it made in China. They bring in their containers, if you will, and in the springtime they send it out to their dealers and distributors and retailers, and then they use the fall or hunting season to go create content for social media and what have you. We're different in the sense that we're made to order, and you order a blind, and so here we are, still building blinds because we just can't keep up. You can't. It's the same story else. You can't find help, and at some point you hate to even look for help,
right?
Because you send stuff out, and then you got to get it back and pay shipping and fix it. And not that we don't make mistakes, but
Yeah.
you have a little more quality control when you're doing everything yourself. So.
Oh my gosh, that's so true.
Yeah, we run into that. I was just looking back, and it looked like when we talked about your pop-up blind company, that was April of 22. I can't believe it's been that long.
Yeah.
Really?
We're
Yeah.
running up on our 100th episode pretty soon here.
Pretty cool.
Okay.
Pretty cool. So, yeah, we went through just kind of all the background of that and what you guys do and the family-run brand and all that. I guess since then, has much changed for you guys, or still kind of trucking along?
Things have grown, obviously.
Yeah.
That's the whole goal, I think, when we start a business is, and maybe sometimes you're careful what you wish for.
Right.
And we just looked at the video, right?
Right.
You want to grow a business, but man, there's so many, regardless of what it is, there's growing pains. I think you get started in your own business because you get tired of that thumb on you at some regards, or there's multiple reasons. You know, sometimes you just, there's a need or a service and you want to make some money, and but as it grows, it creates, it's almost like starting a whole new business because it creates a whole other set of issues that you didn't even think about. So things are growing. Social media, I was just talking with Andy. We had a reel a month and a half ago. Had a reel, had no idea. I've spent thousands of dollars on videos to post online and never got really any traction like I wanted to. And, you spend a couple $100 every month to boost it, and all these things happen. And everybody wants your business to manage your social media, and nobody can tell you how they would do it. But and then you post a reel, and it brought in 250,000 views or something. And it's like, I wonder how that happened. And, and I look at the content, and it's something I took off my iPhone that I thought was really dumb. But people wanted to watch it.
Yeah.
So I call back some of these folks that wanted to manage my social media stuff. Say, hey, why did this happen? And they can't answer the question. You can have my business if you can answer why this happened. Well, sometimes it just happens.
Yeah.
So I kind of got the understanding as I'm watching this that the flip top part of our blind, where it's unique to us. Everybody else just has a blind, and you stand up and shoot, and you try to stay covered. So total concealment, and that top flies open, is unique to us. So the last blind, we don't get many blinds at our place. We had one we were shipping out. I had my wife record some different angles of how we were going through the process. And a week and a half later, we're at 1.3 million views. So
That's crazy.
it's unbelievable. But it just, again, be careful what you wish for, because now all of a sudden you're answering a bunch of DMs, text messages, because I'm really free with people to get a hold of me with my cell phone. Because you want that.
We talked about that last time. Like, is there going to be a tipping point or a threshold there?
And, and look at us. We made him wait on us. I mean, this is a busy man.
No, we're all busy, right? I mean, we're all busy. But this is why we do things. I mean, it's kind of, this is fun, right? We get together and we get to talk about what we do. And we all, there's things that we talk about to each other as business owners that we wouldn't talk to anybody else about, because they think you're whining and
That's so true.
bitching and moaning about things. They're like, suck it up. I wish I had your life.
Right.
And we don't, it sounds like we're complaining, but we're just really reaching out to folks that run their own companies and saying, is it really this way for you as well? Maybe we can get better. Maybe we can do things different. And we all find out, no, it sucks for all of us at certain times.
Right, sure.
Not that there's nothing wrong. There's not great moments that we all enjoy,
course,
but it's fun.
The social media thing is so weird, and I've felt the same way about it, and that confirms it for me. Like, I feel like there's no rhyme or reason. It's really, they just decide when they want to reward you, and when they decide it, then you get it, and you get it big time, because they have so much control. You can sit there and you can throw money at it every day. I feel like we were doing that for a while, and I felt like the more I spent, the more I had to spend. I felt like if I was one of their folks on the other side, watching my company do what it was doing, they were just kind of pulling the strings and like, okay, we can get him to spend a little bit more. If we only make it hit this many people, he'll spend a little bit more.
Yeah.
And they just kept doing that.
Right.
And then every now and then you'd get a bone thrown to you, and then you'd be like, oh yeah, it's like like golfing. Like you get one good hit in a round and you keep coming back.
One birdie.
Yeah, and I just got done with it. I was like, man, it's not doing anything, and I can't find anybody that can tell me how to make it do anything like you're talking about, other than to just. I felt like everybody's explanation was, you just have to stick with it. You just have to keep putting money into it. You just have to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm sure there is something to that. I think you get rewarded by those companies by playing ball with them.
Right.
But man, yeah, it's definitely not like as simple as you would think, where I can put something really cool together and a lot of people are going to like it and it's going to take off like wildfire. That's not the case.
And there's a little bit of that build a better mousetrap and they'll come. That's not necessarily the case in real business, and that's definitely not the case with social media, video content. Some of the best duck hunting videos I've ever seen, where the opening shot was slow-mo, snow falling, all this crazy music made you feel like the world is coming to an end, really got you tuned in. And I think it was produced by some big-time money. But it had like 200 views on YouTube. I'm like, whoa! And then you're talking about your 8-second reel had 1.3 million
off an iPhone.
Yeah,
off an iPhone. So and you were talking about boosting there. A social media guy that one of those companies you're talking about. He says when you boost, you're just donating to Facebook or Instagram. You're just donating. He goes, don't do that. And in fact, I've heard where that can work against you, and I feel that might have happened to me on my YouTube channel, because I wanted to get monetized. I wanted to get followers. So I'm like, if this is what we got to do, spend $20 on this, spend $50 on that, let's do it. And now I'm not sure. I'm basically at the same point I was a year ago. Like, was it worth it to do it? I mean, I got followers, but are they engaged? Are they watching?
It's really enticing too, because you'll have a post or a story or whatever
click here
that does fairly well, and then they put it in front of you and they're like, hey, to hit another 500 people, just put $10 in it, or whatever. And you're like, what's $10? No big deal.
Yeah.
And then you try that, and then okay, whatever. And then you hit a bunch of people that may or may not even mean anything.
Yeah. Yep. And that's interesting too on the YouTube side, where I'm way too deep into this stuff, but some of the really small channels, I'm talking just a few thousand followers, they are raking it in big, because the few thousand followers they have are really engaged, buying their products, interacting, spending a lot of time on there, so they're making money on the back end and the front end. So I don't know. I think it kind of it makes me think of, I use that reference, build a better mousetrap. Well, it doesn't work in the real world. Why would it work online? Ben, you were talking about, you want to put a finite, and so do you, Jeff, right? You want to say, if I pay you $500 a month, I want this, this, and this. Well, there's no guarantees.
Yeah.
There's no guarantees in real life. There's definitely no guarantees on social media, but we're kind of programmed to think, all right, if I'm buying advertising, I'm going to get this for that.
Right.
And man, you really can't do it.
Nope.
You just can't put it in a box online.
Yep.
Would you say your best advertisement obviously is probably people? Right, they buy it and go tell their buddy.
Well, I just had a text from a guy the other day that said, "Hey, first season's over with the boat blind. I've hunted out of every boat blind in the market. It's the best one I've ever hunted out of.
How cool is that?
That's what I told my wife. I said, it's why we do what we do, because ultimately we have to make money to pay the bills and overhead and all these things.
Yeah.
But there's a moment in our lives where it doesn't matter what. For the customer, it doesn't matter if he had to pay $5,000 for that blind, he would have spent it. And if I made $5,000 on that blind, it didn't matter to me. It's something as simple as a text message that you get says, hey, I've hunted my whole life. It's been the best blind I've hunted out of. I've got 3 of my buddies going to call you. And then literally in the next couple of days, this was Monday, so in the last 2 days, I've had phone calls from 2 of his buddies.
Nice. Yeah.
Saying, hey, they're sold. I don't have to do anything. I got to get their measurements and make the blind. So that's really cool.
These buddies, they weren't bots. They didn't sound like AI bots.
As long as they know how to give me their credit card number, I don't care what they are.
Give me all the bots as long as they got good credit.
So then you still have your wife and family helping too?
A little bit. It's pretty much my wife. My dad's moved back from Texas, so he helps
good.
do work. And how fun is that to be able to share some time with your dad and your wife? And I don't know. It's not for everybody. And then there's times I kind of joke around with folks. It doesn't look like Duck Dynasty around our place. I'll never forget the first time I made my daughter cry, and 10 o'clock at night, she's up in her room, and my wife's like, go up there. I'm like,
Yeah.
Go up there. You have to take the dad hat off, right?
Right. Yep.
Or put your dad hat on and take
Yeah.
the business hat off and say, sorry. And it's tough as a dad to tell your kids you're sorry, but it was needed, and it's a humbling moment, and I think it's good for
Yeah, and I'm sure that
for us.
happens with spouses too. I mean, there's times I'm like,
You're
okay.
sure it happens,
Well,
or
I'm
you
saying-
know for
no,
a
I
fact?
know it happens with us. I'm just saying with him. I mean, I'm like, okay, boss mode, like calm down.
Yeah.
Like, geez, can you be a nice husband?
Yeah.
Like, we're not working.
Yeah.
Calm it down.
We could do a whole episode on just families in small business. Like families that work together,
Yeah.
spouses, whatever, kids. I hear so many people, and we've talked to other folks about this. They try to act like, it's so great. Like, we just get along so well. I love working with my wife. I love working with my husband, blah, blah, blah. I'd never have it any other way. They're full of shit, man. Like, there is good times, of course, but
Sure.
it brings in a whole nother dynamic
Yeah.
that people just don't realize.
Well, because we're human beings, and we've got that emotion that the reason we're together was because we loved each other and wanted to get married, and that's not always the case when
You're
deadlines
working.
and somebody made a mistake and this happened and all of these things come into play, and you have to separate yourself. I've not been good at it.
It's very hard.
separating myself, and so I just say what I say, and you have to look and go, and it wasn't very nice, right? And you have to. Eat a little crow or whatever you want to say. You get it, right? And so I'm finding that this time of year, though, is particularly good because it's Christmas time. And I like Christmas. I like Christmas music. And, the Hallmark Channel's playing up in the loft and Christmas music. And it just makes you feel good about being an American and owning an American business and working with your family. It really does.
Yeah.
I think what really prevails is how rewarding it is when your family all puts in the chips, and then you get that text message, best blind I've ever, and your wife sewed on it, your daughter helped out with this or that. I mean,
The first thing I did was send it to our group family,
Yeah.
right? The 7 of us group text, and because I want them to understand this is why we do what we do.
That's what you guys have been working for. Like,
Yeah.
there's the reward.
Yeah.
and then it extends out. I'll go back to
Pull that a little bit closer to you.
Yep.
you guys, your successful deer hunt,
Yeah.
and you shot me that text message,
Right,
that picture.
right, yep.
Garrett and I were freezing our nuts off on the hillside. We were miserable, and we weren't seeing any deer movement. But you shot me that picture of Morgan with your first buck, and we were both just so happy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like it extends out beyond just
Sure.
the people that you were talking about. You get to, I don't know, kind of siphon off a little bit of that reward and feel good about it because
Absolutely.
we helped out a little bit.
Oh, a lot,
and
yeah.
Garrett came and did that land survey, and he gets into that stuff, so he was excited, and I felt good for you. So
Yeah.
it is kind of a, I don't know, unless you experience it, you don't really get it. You know what I mean?
Do you think that's why some people, I know we're talking about getting it or not working with families, decide not to work with their family because they just don't want to mess with it, and it's just easier to go somewhere else and then come home and be like, oh my gosh, Sharon at work, she was such a you know.
Well, that's the problem, or that's what makes it tough is when you're at work, inevitably you're going to have conflict.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's just going to happen. So if you're having conflict with someone that you don't have to go home with, it's a whole lot different. Like at the end of the workday, you go home. You can go talk to your husband or wife or whatever about that if you want to, or you can just blow it off and not worry about it until tomorrow,
Yeah.
and then things kind of blow over overnight, whatever. But when that happens at work with the people you live with, like you just said,
It just keeps
then
going.
you go home and it's
Not
like,
only live with, but you sleep with these people,
right,
or this person.
yeah,
Yeah.
Or you say, go sleep on the couch
Yeah.
tonight.
yeah. So you go home and then you've got that to deal with. Like it doesn't just go away. You know what I mean? Like you can't just walk away from it.
I just have you get kicked out to the doghouse. I was thinking, does your wife have a little pop-up line set up in the backyard for
There
you?
you go.
When you
That's what
see
he
that
means,
out
yeah.
there, you know, oh boy, I messed up again.
At least I'd be warm.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's a great endorsement right there.
That's so funny.
But how much of that is just because of how we were raised? Is as people, right? And we were never really taught how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yeah.
my parents didn't talk about it.
No, it's
and
not
we talk
normal.
about different things with our kids that you look at and wish your parents or somebody would have given you some knowledge of on how
Yes.
to deal with things like that. And freezing and walking away from somebody doesn't fix anything. It doesn't go away. To your point, Ben,
Yeah.
it can go away overnight because it's somebody you just show up to work with, but not in a small business.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, and even at work, if you don't address it and hit it head on, and a lot of people don't, because we don't like, we don't like the conflict. We don't like making people feel bad or whatever for the most part. But if you let it smolder, it's going to get worse and worse. I had a boss in one of my previous jobs where his way of dealing with it was to just let them figure it out. Like there would be a scuffle, like you're talking about, between this gal and that gal, and he goes, "I just don't pay attention to it and let them figure it out." Like I'm telling you. That's not
That's
working.
not gonna
it's
work.
not working at all, and it's going to spill over, and it always did. But he had it in his head where, I'm not dealing with it.
Like
See no
just
evil.
out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. Hear no evil.
I do think the 24-hour, 48-hour rule that a lot of sports coaches, like our oldest athlete, went and got off and played D1 college ball, but a lot of the coaches even growing up were like, there's an issue, parents give us 24 hours, you need to calm down. Don't come and talk to me right after the game, whatever. I do think even that sometimes works where I'm like, okay, take it a second. If I'm still thinking about this tomorrow, 24 hours, 48 hours later, it's probably something I should address, and I probably would address it a little bit more calmly. But in the moment,
Yeah. That's a tough one when you're talking kids and sports.
yes, yes.
That's another realm of emotions, right?
Right. But I just feel like if you're having that conflict at work or something, sometimes I'm in the moment, I just want to bite off his head. But I'm like, am I really going to care about this tomorrow? Is it really even worth it? Probably not. So let's just wait.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not saying I'm even the best at that. But I do think it's probably a good rule.
You are mad at Ben a lot.
Am I?
Jeez.
No, I'm just giving you a bad time.
Feel like it.
I'm seriously giving you a bad time.
So rude. It's about time. I give you shit all the time. That's totally fine, Andy. I'll take it.
It's usually how we open a show is you flipping me shit, and then there's a pretty good dose of it in the middle, and then it's how we close it out. So.
Yeah.
Yep. I think, and you brought it up earlier, Jeff, last time you had talked about your daughter doing some work with you guys. I think she was going to school or something. Was that right? Do I remember that correctly?
Yep, she's been married. So since we spoke last, 2 kids are married. We just had a grandchild a week ago.
Yeah, congrats.
Little boy.
Congratulations.
Okay.
So you're a granddad.
Granddad.
All right.
This is your first
grandchild, and we found out on Thanksgiving that our son and his wife are having a grandson as well.
Oh my goodness, y'all are growing quick.
Yeah, so this is particularly cool. So you had asked where we are in some of these projects, and I'm notorious for taking on way too much and sometimes not getting near enough done.
Huh.
Yeah.
Is that a common thing
See,
at
here we
this
go.
table?
Yeah.
What'd I say?
We should launch another podcast.
Okay. Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah. So, and then we had alluded to Laddie Leather Goods, and I may have talked about the story. My grandfather came over, or my grandparents from the Czech Republic, and his name was Ladislav. So they always called him Lad or Laddie, which is in essence where we've got the name Laddie Leather Goods. So my son's middle name is Ladislav, and we were informed at Thanksgiving time that their son's name is going to be Theodore Ladislav. So
Cool.
it's kind of an
That is so
emotional
cool.
tie that, what we're doing has relevance to these people's lives in a sense that's where the company name came from. So from somebody I admired greatly, my grandfather, and now generational from my son to my grandson. So it's given me a little poke in the ass to
Sure.
get things moving a little bit quicker.
You better make it work now.
Yeah. So,
No pressure.
No pressure. But we've got a leather goods supplier now down in Missouri. We're just working on a few things. I need to get some different pieces of equipment. I've had a lot of requests from folks.
Okay,
to-
so instead of the blind being fabric, it would be leather.
Nope. So we're doing like women's leather totes, purses,
Oh,
backpacks.
okay. Because I
Whole
thought
nother
that
company.
would be
I
a
like
lot.
I
of
love your
leather.
thinking because that would be an upsell.
That would be a huge upsell. I just didn't know if we were
Black
talking
leather
like
interior.
You're thinking about the Christmas
Waterproof.
gift aspect of these blinds again, Morgan.
I was thinking really big here. Sorry.
Yeah.
You're talking, okay, purses. I was talking
Yeah.
about leather blinds.
Yeah,
Okay.
leather.
The leather seats in the blind, right?
Oh,
That's extravagant. Sorry. That was super Gucci.
I love it.
Yeah. Hey, maybe there's a market for it. I don't
Yeah,
know.
we're gonna have to explore that with the time I don't have.
Right. Might have to find another leather company. They might run out.
Bigger cows.
Some buffalo.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, it'll be fun. We've been donating quite a few items for. My mom passed away of breast cancer in 2015, and so it's, you kind of think about those things because
Yeah.
you had to watch somebody you love deeply go through that. And so what I've done on social media, or just talking to folks, it's a relatively common cancer for women, of course. It seems like most of the time on social media, you'll see women post that they go for their last chemo treatment, in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I've taken it upon myself at times to reach out to somebody in their friends group and say, hey, what about we have them send me, your friends and their family, send to my house cards of encouragement. And then I take and I make a leather tote with pink thread on it and the pink emblem, for breast cancer awareness on the inside on the pocket. And then I fill this tote with these cards of encouragement from their friends, and I send it to the woman.
How amazing
And try
is
to-
that?
And you think it's cool to get an email or a text from a guy
Right,
saying the duck
right.
blind's cool, when you get a message from somebody that you really know from a distance saying thank you for doing that. I mean, it gets pretty emotional for me. I'm an emotional guy.
Yeah.
And to read
My gosh.
that you actually made the difference or a difference in someone's life
Yeah.
was really neat.
Wow.
So we will continue to do that. That's just something that we can give back. We can give back in a lot of ways. Sometimes it's monetarily. Sometimes it's in ways like this where we can just facilitate something that hopefully makes somebody's day better.
That's such a cool idea.
So for any of your listeners
Wow.
as well, I sometimes you hesitate to let people know because it could have far-reaching consequences as far as how much time it takes.
Right.
And I fully expect that at some point we will have to pick and choose, unfortunately, which people we can send this to and which we can't. But until then, I do it as often as I can because it's enjoyable.
Yeah,
and it helps.
of course.
It helps me feel good about my life sometimes and giving back to others.
The handmade leather stuff is so cool, and that's it has so much more meaning. And like you said, when you're giving it as that gift, as some encouragement and so on and so forth, it's not just like something somebody went and spent their money and bought something off the shelf. Like there's a lot put into it.
There is. One thing interesting about leather goods versus duck blinds, if you screw up when you're building a duck blind, you can go pull the thread out and the hole kind of self-mends itself and you can resew it. So we talked about before about having employees and things getting messed up. Well, when you screw up in the leather goods business, there's holes now poked in that leather that don't self-mend, so you literally just throw that away or potentially trim it down to a different piece on there. But it's a whole different deal. And so some of that's why leather goods is more expensive as well. Number one, durability. Everybody loves the smell and the design work and things like that. But if you screw up, which we all do, it just gets tossed because nobody wants a seconds that's got holes poked all over in the leather.
I bet your brain goes to like, what can I make with this little tiny thing? Like earrings? Like you just start, just because you don't want to waste it.
Yep.
Ugh.
So you're kind of starting with bags, purses, and are you going to kind of keep it condensed? Are you already looking at expanding into other products? Are you going to make like sheaths for knives? Or I mean, there's so many different things you could do.
Wait,
cool things.
Make what?
Like a
Say
whole
it again?
sheath.
Oh, I thought you said sheets.
No, leather
a
sheets.
big-
That and duck blinds are not
I didn't.
not on the docket.
I'm like, that is not what he said. I've never heard that. Sheath? That's a holder?
Yeah.
right?
Okay. I don't know. I didn't know that term.
Now you know.
So when
I can't be the only listener that
when he
never
said
heard that.
sheets, though, I'm a little curious where your mind went when he said leather
I was
sheets.
like,
You thought that was crazy,
Yeah.
Well,
but you didn't think it was crazy. We were going to build a duck line out of leather.
I did kind of think it was crazy. It
Didn't want
just
to
seemed,
belittle your guest.
Man.
seemed a little crazy, but
Jeff, that's a dumb idea. I don't want to tell you, but I think it's a dumb idea. Nobody wants a leather duck
I was
line.
going to get behind it if you were doing it.
we're just gonna air it out over the airwaves. Gonna help Jeff.
Why are
work
you
through
shaking
this.
your head like this?
I'm just listening.
No, I
Yeah,
like it.
yeah.
We're getting somewhere. We're figuring things out here.
Yeah, but basically, kind of the normal, if you will. I mean, the leather goods industry is a $60 billion global industry.
Wow.
It's huge. It doesn't take long to figure out. You just need a little piece of that, and handmade type stuff.
Yeah.
With a story. I think that's where, as we go to Instagram and we go to the internet now and we look at people that are selling things or products, a lot of us are buying it because of the story.
Right.
That's where I find myself spending money nowadays.
Yep.
As long as the quality of the product aligns itself
Yeah.
with the story as well.
Yeah.
But in general, American-made products have a great story and then they have a great quality about them as well.
Was that hard to find, that leather company?
I'd search. There's not very many. And trying to find a leather goods supplier that produces leather in the United States there's only 4 or 5 tanneries that I was able to find.
Wow. And we're like right in the middle of cattle country.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
there
You'd
should,
think there'd be
there should be 4 or 5 down the street. I mean,
Right.
if
We in our business, like leather patches, on hats and stuff like that, man, that everybody
Everyone loves
wants
them.
a leather patch hat. And they're a dime a dozen. I mean, we can get them all over the place, but the majority of them are imported or they're faux leather, and
Right.
people don't even realize. So if you make something really cool, like with a leather patch hat that you can have that whole story behind, that would be a home run.
But telling the story as well, I think, is a
Absolutely.
big part of
Yeah.
it because, as you said, faux leather. I mean, most consumers wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's our mission then to create content that educates
Yeah.
people not only to what we have, but what to look out for in other aspects, because it's how whole industries get a bad name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I would want to see, and I'm sure people will give you ideas all the time as far as leather goes, but with guns in the outdoors, we've done. So Joel, our son, got involved in trap shooting this past season, so it'll be season number 2 coming up, and we're kind of getting everything ready for that. But we go to some different competitions, and there's some people set up where they're making all the stuff for trap shooting out of leather. So it's like your holster for your box of shells, or your bag, that's going to hold your spent shells or whatever, and all that handmade, and they'll stamp the kids' names on them and stuff like that. That's super cool. And then with like rifles, slings,
Yeah.
which I need.
Oh, yeah.
I've been trying to find one for mine.
Yep.
And these lever guns. I don't know if you've looked into all the leather that they're doing on these lever guns. So they make like these, I guess you would call it a sheath that goes around the lever itself.
Yeah.
And then holders on the back of the stock that'll hold rounds,
Yeah.
things like that. That stuff is so cool. I've been trying to find one
Yeah.
for my gun. I just can't find anybody around. Like I see them online. There's a couple people making them here and there,
Yeah.
but you can't really get a hold of them. And
There's this company out of Missouri that now I'm going to run into them again at the Deer and Game Expo where we met. We ran into each other. I think they're by the name of Shamrock.
okay,
But they make, and I bet they're using the same tannery because they're out of Missouri.
Yeah.
And they make all that stuff for knives, guns, accessories, all that stuff.
I think there's a lot of demand for that
I
kind
mean,
of stuff.
the lines are just so long at these trap meets for kids
for
that
that kind of
want
stuff.
that. And Joel's talked about, and we're like, dude, you're like 20th in line. We're going to be here
And
all
again,
day.
like when it comes to like shooting sports, as an example, hunting, the outdoors, most of what we're doing has some kind of backstory. Where'd your gun come from? Was it grandpa's gun? Was it dad's gun? What have you done with it? What was that hunt like that you took it out with? There's all this story. So when you build up all your accessories too, when you're out there trap shooting, that all have this cool story behind them. It's kind of all part of the deal.
Well, that's a favorite, your favorite place to visit is like your uncle who has a story for every little thing, in his man cave. Those are the cool places, and people that you like to visit. You're talking about people pitching them ideas for leathers. I got another great, terrible idea.
Oh,
We're gonna tie
gosh.
a lot of things together here.
We've talked about
Here we
sheets,
go.
Okay.
duck blinds.
Okay, so like when
Okay.
you do have a gaff or a goof, and you accidentally poke some holes in a piece of leather, you're like, well, we're going to throw that out. Don't. Recycle it as a patch, send it to Ben, and then there'll be a legit pop-up, and you'll see the holes going through it, so you know that was a goof up with pop-up, and you call it upcycle or something catchy. Pop-up, blind, upcycle. And you'll get a legit hat that you know.
As crazy as it sounds, I was down at G&H Decoy last year with my dad going through the factory, and they've got mist shoots, right, where they shoot the plastic into the mold, and they don't have enough plastic or it wasn't whatever it is. And they've got these decoys that are half there and then all the plastic that's crap around it. And I grabbed one from them because I'm going to make a cool light, because you can see around where they're just going to, I'm going to put some LED lights behind it, put them on a board, and then give it to them at some point. But I said, you guys could probably make more money selling odd stuff like this than you could decoys. That's the world we live in. Again, there's a story, and where did this come from, and how does it fit into my life?
So true.
It's really neat.
I think a lot of people too have kind of gotten away from like everything being perfect.
Yes.
Because if it's not perfect, it automatically tells that story that this was hand done.
There's
This
some
wasn't
character.
500 punched out at a time or whatever,
Yeah, not a factory overseas did this.
Yeah.
Jeff's hands did that.
Yeah.
So then you would catch a whole nother wave of shit, people giving you shit when they see that patch on the hat.
Just what I need.
Yep, yeah.
More of your DMs filling up.
More shit.
Told you it was a bad idea.
Yeah. No, it sounds cool though. The leather business, I'm glad to hear that more's coming along with it. Definitely keep us
I know,
in mind.
you're always searching out leather stuff.
I think it's cool.
That's crazy.
For
Yeah,
sure.
if you go to Instagram, there's a lot of folks, and we'll do everything with the sewing machine, but there's a lot of people hand stitching stuff, which is fascinating to me to watch that take place, because they punch the holes and then they just literally hand stitch it, which is a whole different deal.
Sure.
Takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
But I mean, the number of followers some of these guys have on Instagram blows my mind. And they're making a living doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out of a studio, much like we're sitting in.
Yep. I think a lot of those guys too, when we talk about small business, and that's a struggle that I've had with our small business too, is like, at what point do you just kind of stay true to what you're doing, and you're kind of like, you're hitting that ceiling, like you're not going to be able to get any bigger if you're going to maintain that kind of authenticity. You know what I mean? Or do you then figure out how to expand and do stuff more in bulk and at bigger capacity and so on and so forth, but lose a little bit of the authenticity? It's like there's a struggle there as a small business owner.
It's a huge struggle for most people. It's not for me, and I'm not because I'm better than anybody else. I have no desire to have 20 employees. I don't care if it made me $300 million a year. I have no desire internally to do something like that. None. I just want to be in my barn sewing, left alone to do what I want to do. When's enough, right? I mean, as we're younger, we all think, gosh, if I could have just make $30,000 a year, I would be set for life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you look
Now
and go,
it's like,
oh my Lord, if I only made $30,000, there'd be problems.
Right.
But I think we kind of get sucked into ways of the world, right? And we can talk about faith if you wanted to, or whatever you want to deal. But those are ways of the world, and we all get sucked into them. If we're producing 5,000 T-shirts a week, how do we get to where we can produce 7,000? Because that's our level of success. That's how we measure success. When instead saying, can I produce 5,000 T-shirts a week and free up my time to go do what I want to do in the mountains of Colorado, which is ultimately what puts a smile on our face.
Yeah.
Right.
So how do we get to the point where we can produce enough and rein ourselves in and say, okay, I've produced enough, or I'm making enough, now I can go enjoy life. And the older I get, 53 this year, the older I get, the more apparent it becomes to me. It just the clarity is amazing. That I could care two shits less about making tens of millions of dollars and having 5 houses around the country and a jet airplane. Would it be cool? Of course. I'm as capitalistic as anybody in Nebraska or the United States of America. But at the same time, I realize that that's not where my happiness lies. My happiness lies in taking myself or my family or friends to someplace and just hanging out and having conversations.
God, it's so true. And that's what I think. I wonder if it's as your kids get older, because, you know, we have a couple older kids where you're like, the time being together, and it's not really about where it's how much money's being spent. It's just, you know what I mean? The time.
But we live in a world that we need it. I mean,
Well,
I don't know where the line.
absolutely.
I don't know where the
either.
line is.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But if we just take some of the busyness out of our lives and we just look at it and acknowledge that there is a line somewhere, it may be blurred a little bit, but when's enough?
Yep.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
I agree.
And you brought up a point, I think it ties into this somewhere, somehow, where you don't have enough time to hunt.
Right.
But you love to hunt, and you're actually making hunting blinds. Like, you brought up Duck Dynasty, and that was a quote from Phil Robinson, you know, and he's a spiritual guy, where he was talking about how Willie took it over, and he's go, doing all these conventions, and he blew it up to where it was. And his older son, Jace, was like, I don't want to do that, because if I do that, then I don't have enough time to make opening day of duck season every year. And Phil's like, yeah, I agree with Jace. It's like,
Yeah.
but without Willie, they wouldn't have their empire.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
where is that line?
The reality, I think, for all of us is we will know where that line was when we're if we're not taking from this life instantly, meaning in a car accident or some type of accident. But if any of us are laying, in our deathbed per se, or dying from an illness or something, we will have plenty of time to think about this and know where that line was. I think the whole key is to know where the line is now and not have to look back and go, I wish I would have.
So true. Okay.
I think a lot of
Yeah.
what I've seen with a topic like that, or any kind of other topics, like what it is you do for work. Do you run your own business? Do you work for someone? Whatever. That I've realized is that you don't. It's just not the same for everybody. Just flat out isn't. And there isn't one single answer that says this is where the line is. This is what everybody should realize.
Yeah.
Like when you talk about that Duck Dynasty family, for Willie, he has a completely different goal and things that
He's wired different.
give him satisfaction than Jace, and it just is what it is. It's okay. Each one has that different,
Yeah, it's not wrong.
Yeah.
No. If somebody wants to make $10 million a day and go for it, chase that dream. That's not who I am. And that's what I'm saying is we need to all, in retrospect, look internally and somehow say that's not what I want. But yeah, of course, everybody's just no different than us. We choose to make blinds in America.
Yeah.
Everybody else has decided it's better for them to make things overseas. If pop-up blind is ever made anywhere other than the United States of America, I no longer own the company because I would literally shut the business down and find something else to do before I would have it made overseas.
Yeah.
It's the line I've drawn, and that's okay.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's important to know those things about yourself, like you said, and then stick with them. Yep.
It's pretty easy to get pulled away. We're tempted every day,
gosh. Oh,
yeah. because everybody else is out hunting and I'm sitting here making blinds.
I got all my orders done. Got the container last month.
Right? Yep.
Yeah.
It's a different world, and a lot of them folks have become friends in the industry that do that kind of stuff and use that business model, if you will. Good for them.
Yeah.
We can still be friends.
Right.
Yeah.
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 It's just different.
Still be
That's a
friends,
good
but
point.
want different
That's a good
things.
point.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
So true.
So,
Cool.
all right. So, is there like a website we could send people for the leather goods, or we're not quite there yet?
Not quite there
Not
yet.
quite there yet.
No.
Okay. Still hammering that out.
Yeah, I would say by middle of next year. You want to hit that. That will be a Christmas item, of course.
Okay.
So cool.
Being able, and one of the reasons we're doing this is because we would like to have a way to build inventory of stuff.
Yeah.
So we can go somewhat enjoy life. It's never a solution to everything, as you know. You can build inventory. Do you build too much? Do you not build too much? Whatever it is. But I want to be able to go to the shelf, pull off something, send it to them, and when we're out, we're out.
Right.
It is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, you're in a unique place with those custom duck blinds where
Yeah.
made to order every single one of them. And that's why they work so well.
Yeah.
So,
I think with our audience as well, there's definitely it's the right audience for that category that you're dealing with. So if there's anything that we can help with, just definitely let us know when you guys get around to it. I think I know folks, including myself, would be excited to get their hands on some of those things. Yeah. And I like the small offering. It's like a really good barbecue joint, you know. Like when it runs out, it's out. Sorry, bud. You know, if we're done at 11, we're done at 11. You know,
last plate went out 15 minutes ago.
Right.
Yep.
Do you follow the Montana Knife Company by chance?
A little bit, and I've heard more and more about them lately.
Holy cow! I mean, have you followed them?
No.
So I'm going to get the timeline wrong, but I'm going to say 2 years ago, roughly, they started doing knife drops with a couple of employees, Josh Smith, out of his garage. And, I mean, they've been on Fox News. I mean, they've been all over the country. I mean, it's blown up to something unbelievable for them guys. And it's the story, right? In Montana, they build, obviously, a quality product. But they do a knife drop on a Thursday. I don't know if anybody knows how many that is, but if there's 300, as soon as the 300 sell out, they're done.
Yeah.
I think ideally that's not the business model most people want. They'd like to, and they've even said they want to build inventory of stuff. But at this point, they build them.
And they sell.
They sell. I mean, literally in seconds. I mean, the website is shut down. Yeah. Montana Knife Company. It's,
wow. I've heard a lot of really good things about them.
You know, they've Origin USA in Maine. If you've seen Origin stuff with boots and jeans and
Jocko,
all of his stuff. I mean, all these are. I mean, that's a 10-year-old company, and to look, you know, they've got 500 some employees. Again, not something I want to do, but I admire those folks that have said, we started this business in a garage, you know, and now here we are. We've got factories in 2 different locations or 3 different locations in the United States, and they're doing it with the American supply chain, with cotton grown in America and all these things. That's cool. That is, to me, that is really cool because somebody said the only way we can do this is overseas, and that's not the case.
Yeah,
that's not the case at all.
Right.
It takes a little bit more work to do in America, and you make unfortunately you make less money because your margins aren't as good. But everybody thinks you're making more money because you're charging them more.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And there's another educational process for your listeners because someone's making stuff overseas doesn't mean they're making less money. The reality is they're getting it made for less and they're charging more. And again, that's their prerogative. It's not for me to say they shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But the guy that's building stuff in America is likely making less money than and dealing with more government regulations and all the other crap that he has to deal with, as opposed to opening a container and getting it to where it needs to be.
Well, it's all, I mean, simple economics and those kinds of things. I think most people probably understand, but, you know, around here, you can't pay anybody any less to do the most basic job than like $15 an hour, maybe 20.
Yep.
You know, you go to somewhere in China or whatever, and someone can make a really good living on 2. You know, and it's not like you're shortchanging them. They can make a really good living on 2. Their stuff just costs less.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, I mean, it's basic.
Yeah. The job creation too. God, that should be worth more. You know what I mean? When you have 20 employees or 100 employees, what you're bringing to the table for the nation, for your local community, local economic development. You know, just that alone should be worth more. You know, like I think you're talking about the fuzzy good feelings. Yes, of course you get that, but for some reason we get taxed and beaten down. It's like, no, just ship it all out, fire everybody, have it made overseas. And as just a businessman perspective, monetarily that would make the most sense, and it does in so many cases. But it's not. I'm trying to figure out a way to say it's not right.
It's tough.
You know?
And again, we could have a whole podcast on this, but just doing business in the United States, as an example, what you're talking about, if I hire somebody in a different state, which I have multiple people that work for us in different states, there's rules on the books that now I have to start charging every single person that buys something from me in that state sales tax. Where I didn't have to before.
Yep, because you don't have a presence there.
Yep, and I look at it and I go, hold on a second, you know, XYZ state, I am sending money to your citizen you are collecting income tax on it. I am doing you a favor by hiring your assistant, and what you want to do is beat me down and make me have to collect more and pay more.
Yep.
There's a lot of stupid rules like that make it really hard.
Yeah.
That I don't know if any of that stuff's ever going to get fixed, but there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on.
Sure is.
Collect more and pay more, and takes more time to now file that paperwork and do all of those
Go.
things.
Yep,
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
But again, these are things that business owners talk about that the average guy would be like, "Oh, get over it. You make way enough money." And and again, I don't know what the line is, but it gets to you.
Well, it makes you think twice about hiring someone from another state.
Sure.
Like, why mess
is
with
it worth it?
It
Yeah.
makes you think twice about doing a lot of things that are really the right thing to do. But
Yeah.
it's that they're just going to cost you more.
Yeah.
This could be well, I know we're kind of winding down here.
Yeah.
But I want to get your thoughts on this real quick because it's shown the other side of the coin here. And we were talking about Bud Light, how they really had a gaffe a few months ago where they had Dylan Mulvaney. He's been a woman now for just over a year. He was on one of their celebrity cans. And that company has kind of tanked. They've taken it really bad. Some estimates are up to like $27 billion. Could you imagine losing $27 billion of shares out of your company?
Crazy.
It's being perceived as a last-ditch effort to try and bring Bud Light back. A lot of people are saying that brand is dead. Budweiser's fine. Busch Light's fine. Forget about Bud Light. You killed it.
Yeah.
They partnered with the UFC, the most manly,
Really?
masculine thing ever. And Dana White's on the
Because they spend a bunch of money, I bet.
and Dana White's on this kick where he's pro Elon Musk and all this, screw the woke community and this and that, and then he turns around and takes
Bud
money from
Light.
Bud Light, and they're their key feature now, and he's on a warpath right now saying Anheuser-Busch falls in line with more than any other client I've ever taken on as far as a sponsor. They employ thousands of United States Americans. They all their factories, everything is within the states. What they bring to the table economically to our nation doesn't compare to any other sponsor that I've had. And there's a lot of truth to that. I mean, so like now it's like, oh my God, but I was beating the drum of haha Bud Light. He goes, think of all the jobs, the distributors, the guys that just deliver beer cans. You've seen those videos where
I saw one. I was like, oh.
a guy used to
This
take.
guy was like, please just buy this beer.
Yeah.
This is my job.
Exactly.
I'm like,
he didn't
I
do
feel
anything
bad
wrong.
for him.
Yeah. It really puts you in a spot there where you wouldn't think about that unless you heard it from a businessman that was loud and proud, like Dana White, saying, get off your high horse. Anheuser-Busch does more for our nation than some of these other companies that we've advertised with in the past. So,
But it's always hard because you almost feel like you're giving them a pass at that point. Can you do any wrong? We all have to answer for those decisions we make. And
yeah.
to your point, the guy that's delivering the beer and there's so many people. I mean, that decision was probably made by a handful of folks. 5 people affected that whole company.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's right. Dana White's right. But at the same time, you just feel like, you're giving them a free pass to do whatever they want to do in some regards.
I've told some of my friends because we talk about that kind of stuff all the time, and I saw where they were announcing. I think they're going to be part of the Super Bowl, and they've got the halftime show, and they've got all these big things coming. And I told my buddies, I said, that's the sad state of social causes and business and whatever in the United States is that all it takes is some money.
Throw some money at it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Just throw a bunch of money at it, and then everything's okay.
I was watching an interview about college football, and it was very prominent that he had a bunch of Bud Light cans in front of him, and like my gears were just grinding. I'm like, get those cans out of the shot, But they were put there for a reason.
Well, and they paid to have them put there.
I know.
Probably a lot.
It's just the back and forth just always gets me.
Yeah, it's wild. But yeah, man, it's good to have you back, Jeff. It was fun to get caught back up.
Yeah, if people want to find you, email you, or you just want to supply them with your
I
phone
don't want
number.
them to find me.
Okay. Don't find Jeff. Okay.
Like Montana
His company
Knives here.
Yeah.
His company is pop-up lines, but don't find him.
Call Farm Focus and order some stuff.
Right.
Good luck finding Jeff.
You guys are on social media, obviously.
Social
you talked
media.
about that.
Yeah,
Yep.
Pop-Up Blind Company and Pop-Up Blind, anything with
Yes.
Pop-Up Blind. So
Yeah.
it's good.
Very cool.
As things progress with Laddie Leather Goods.
I love that name. That's so cool.
I think it's a story again, of
For sure.
a Czech immigrant, and I mean now multiple generations in America. So that's on us to
Yeah, when
expose
that's
that
up and
story.
running, you'll have to come back.
Yeah, I'm
Yep.
sure we'll be talking more about that.
Yeah, for sure.
Very cool. Very cool.
Well, thanks for coming
Cool.
again.
Yeah. Grandpa.
Fun
Yeah,
stuff.
congratulations, man.
Yeah.
Are you
Yep.
called Grandpa or Papa or?
I don't know yet. He doesn't
Your
talk. He
kid-
doesn't talk.
Well, I know, but okay, smartass. Have your kids not told you what they're going to call you?
Okay, wrap it up.
Right, yeah. One thing, either your wife or your kids are going to tell you what you're called. So
Yes.
You'll
Yeah.
just
You don't
wait.
know yet.
I don't know yet. I've
Okay,
I've
all right.
been working in the barn. It's been it's 2 weeks tomorrow, I guess.
All right,
is-
kids, if you're going to listen to this, you better tell them.
Pony up, yeah.
Yep. Give them a name.
Very cool. Well, congratulations, Jeff, and thanks for hopping
Thank
back
you.
on.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah,
always
man, we
fun.
appreciate it. All right. Anything
Grandpa.
else? Nothing else?
Nope.
You guys good? All
Okay,
right.
peace.
Close it out. See ya.